In 1953, Seoul lay in ruins. The Korean War had left the nation shattered, homes destroyed, families broken. The average income lower than many African countries at the time. Japan, just a few years earlier, had been defeated in a war that left its city smoldering, and China, in 1978, had a GDP per capita of less than $200. Imagine that. Less than $200. Yet, today, these nations have become some of the world's greatest economic powerhouses. South Korea exports the technology and culture of the future. Japan dominated global innovation for decades. China lifted more than 800 million people out of extreme poverty. Singapore's skyline rises like a beacon of modernity. How did this happen? How did East Asia turn ruins into riches? Not once, but repeatedly. Like and subscribe to the video so that we can bring more interesting and factful content to you like this. The answer is not magic. It's a story of vision, discipline, and resilience. And it begins with a belief that people are the most valuable resource of all: education. In East Asia, it is not just a pathway to a career, it is a moral duty, a family honor, a national mission. After the devastation of war, Japan rebuilt not just its infrastructure, but its mind. Universal education became the foundation of its recovery. South Korea, emerging from poverty in the 1960s, poured resources into schools, engineering programs, and universities. Singapore, under the vision of Lee Kuan Yew, redesigned its education system to align with global industry needs, teaching languages, mathematics, and technology to every child. Today, students in East Asia dominate global assessments. Literacy rates hover near 100%. But this wasn't about exams. It was about creating generations capable of building economies from scratch, people who could innovate, produce, and compete on the world stage. East Asia had few natural resources, but it had something infinitely more valuable: its people. And by nurturing them, these nations nurtured prosperity. East Asia didn't wait for the world to come to them. They went to the world. Japan led the way. In the 1950s and 60s, companies like Toyota and Sony began shipping goods globally. Affordable, reliable, and high quality, these products forced Japan onto the international stage. South Korea followed. The government nurtured chaebols like Samsung and Hyundai, giving them resources but demanding performance. Only those who succeeded internationally thrived. China joined the race under Deng Xiaoping, transforming Shenzhen from a fishing village into a megacity within decades. Special economic zones became magnets for foreign investment, creating the largest wave of poverty reduction in human history. Export-led growth created discipline, and discipline forged competitiveness. East Asia's governments didn't retreat to the sidelines. They stepped into the game. Japan's Ministry of International Trade and Industry directed industries. South Korea channeled credit into strategic sectors. Singapore created government-linked companies. But here's the secret: protection came with conditions. Firms had to compete globally. Failure meant restructuring. Success meant scaling. This model, known as the developmental state, blended guidance with competition, not free market chaos, not rigid state control, but pragmatic, disciplined strategy. This balance between state vision and market pressure became a blueprint for economic transformation. High savings rates were the hidden engine of East Asia's growth. Families in South Korea, China, and Singapore saved aggressively. Savings became investment. Investment became factories, ports, and research centers. But infrastructure did more than build economies. It connected them. Japan's rail systems, China's high-speed trains, Singapore's port, the best in the world, enabled labor, goods, and ideas to move faster than ever before. Infrastructure wasn't glamorous, but it was the scaffolding upon which prosperity was built. Roads, ports, and networks multiplied productivity. Without them, human capital alone would have stalled. East Asia refused to stay at the bottom of the value chain. Japan moved from textiles to automobiles and electronics. South Korea moved from assembly to semiconductors and smartphones. Taiwan became home to TSMC, producing over half the world's advanced chips. China is now investing heavily in AI, electric vehicles, and green energy. The pattern is clear. Low-cost labor gives manufacturing, gives technology absorption, gives innovation leadership. Other nations often get stuck on the first rung. East Asia climbed the ladder again and again. 1997, the Asian financial crisis. Economies collapsed. Currencies plummeted. South Korea required an IMF bailout. Yet, instead of permanent stagnation, reforms followed. Corporate restructuring, stricter financial oversight, increased transparency. The region recovered stronger than before. Crisis didn't break East Asia. It made it resilient. And resilience became part of the system. Behind the numbers, there is a human story, a cultural story. East Asian societies emphasize effort over innate talent, long-term planning over short-term gains, and collective responsibility over individual glory. Businesses plan for decades, not quarters. Governments strategize for generations. Families prioritize education and discipline. These cultural values, coupled with pragmatic governance and global competitiveness, create a system where economic miracles are not accidents, they are engineered. East Asia's story is not one of luck. It's a story of vision, resilience, and unyielding discipline. Education, exports, strategic governance, savings and investment, infrastructure, technology, culture, crisis, adaptation. These ingredients, mixed together over decades, produce one economic miracle after another. But here's the question that lingers. Can this blueprint be replicated elsewhere? Or was East Asia's rise shaped by a unique combination of culture, timing, and global circumstance? What is certain is this: superpowers are not born, they are built. And East Asia has shown the world exactly how it can be done.